Hey, what is up, everybody? This is your boy AJTRIP, and welcome to a special edition of That's a Shoot. This is usually the weekly episodic show where I talk about what's going on in the world of professional wrestling. But I didn't do one, and I think I may have to stop saying weekly because, to be honest, I haven't been weekly. It's I said at the beginning of the thing that I was going to try to do it weekly, but I wasn't going to force anything. If there wasn't anything to talk about, I wasn't going to, do it, or something like that. So I don't even know if I need to change my open, but I'm going to keep my open the way it is. But like I said, this is a special edition of That's a Shoot because this past weekend, two WWE superstars were told that they were not going to have their contracts renewed. And Carlito, but the big one that seems to have broken everybody's hearts is R-Truth. Ron Killings. Um, that's really seemed to have, like, everybody was so down and out about it and everything like that. So much so that we had a hashtag of We Want Truth trending during Monday Night Raw, and then we also had we heard some We Want Truth chant and some What's Up chants, during the show as well. And so we'll see. We'll see what's you know, but that if that does lead to anything to them bringing back R-Truth. But onto a bigger picture than just R-Truth, it is, as I have named this video, it's WWE's Goodwill subsiding. And what I mean by that is, seemingly from when Triple H took over in summer of 2022, um, and for primarily the next several years, the next not several years, but the next you know year and a half, 2 years plus, WWE has not only been a hot product, in so many ways, but there's like so much goodwill to the product itself that it seemed like that they really couldn't do anything wrong. If something was on television, we'll let it play out. But back in the Vince days, if there was something that maybe they didn't necessarily like, no, it sucked, and they blamed Vince, and they would shit all over it. Maybe if there were, obviously we know about the things of, with John Cena and Roman Reigns and other ones where they wouldn't play along with the story, cheer the babyface, boo the heel, even though you may like them, but you cheer the babyface and you boo the heel, you know, and now that seems to have, that's starting once again. They are cheering guys like Seth Rollins and things like that. Although in the most recent Monday Night Raw, they've gotten some heel heat with what they're doing with Punk against Punk and Uso and Sammy. So I think that's starting to turn around. But they are cheering other people. Julia is now looks to be a heel, but they are cheering Julia for a little bit, and some other things as well. Some other things that have been going on. They're not saying let things play out. If they think something sucks, it sucks. There's a very vocal, however, be it small, segment out there that is just they're for some reason not down with the Jey Uso thing. For some reason, I don't understand why they are making it known. They are hoping and praying that either Gunther ends Jay's reign this coming Monday, or he gets cashed in on this Monday by Seth or anything like that, wanting it to end, this early. I have no idea why. Again, because they think he can't work or anything like that, and that's not the case. You know he can work. You know, like that. Is he the best worker WWE? No, of course not. But he's good. But he's good enough, and more importantly, he's over as Grover with. There's a lot of talk in the world talking about 80-20, the 80-20 issues of the world. I think this is, I don't even say this is 80-20. This is I think a 95-5 issue when it comes to Jey Uso. Like a 5 or 10 people who don't particularly care for Jey Uso. Other 9%, either love him or they are, or they are at the very least like, let Jey Uso earn this. Let him get his run, have his run for however long it may be. So, but all of this is now, coming on the hands of a WrestleMania that was, and particularly, the main event of night 2 that a lot of people did not like. And there have been so much talking about the price gouging, the raising of ticket prices. There was talking about there were like $40,000 seats for SummerSlam, even though they sold out. Still, and the prices are raised, and ticket prices continue to get higher and higher, and now there's talking about there's too many premium live events, and I've said that for several years now that that there's they needed to cut the premium live events in half. One thing I gave AEW credit for from the start, and they've kind of done their own thing, but from the start they were only having, when it started, they were only doing 4 pay-per-views a year, and I thought that was good for them to start. Now I think it's a little bit more. I think they've probably gone to 6 or 7, maybe even 8 because they've added a few more, something like that. As they are trying to, catch on, gain back some stuff they had at the beginning, and things like that, things that they think they feel they need for their company to grow. But I've always said WWE, they did a pay-per-view every month because they felt like that's what they need to do to compete against WCW. But that's no longer here or there. I mean, despite what people say, despite what AEW thinks, despite what even WWE may say, and the things that WWE do, even do to make it seem like AEW is their competition. They're not their competition. They don't compete with AEW. They compete with the NBA Finals and the NBA, and they compete with Major League Baseball and the World Series, and they compete with Disney and Marvel and other types of foreign entertainment. They don't AEW and TNA, they are not competition, and NFL, college football are they're not competition for them. And I think they know that. NFL is king, college football is right behind it. There's no reason to try to to fully compete. Yes, Monday Night Raw goes against Monday Night Football, but this has been like that. So when you have all of this, and you have all of this stuff going on and everything like that, and there seems to be now people are talking about SmackDown. SmackDown has not really been great in some people's eyes. The past maybe 2 or 3 months, especially since they've gone to 3 hours. Some people may feel like going to 3 hours is now, that kind of hurt them, just, for whatever, because for whatever reason. Again, I think 2.5 hours is perfect. It's perfect. It's the perfect thing for Netflix. I think it would be a perfect thing for SmackDown, although So there's been some rumors out there saying that they're gonna keep it at 3 hours. So, but whatever it is. Anyway, so all of this happening and things like this, and people are upset about the WrestleMania stuff, and the main event, and The Rock joining in, and things like that, and some of the things that are going on, some of the prices, and everything that is going on right now. Then the WWE decides to not renew the contract of R-Truth. And R-Truth put out on Twitter, he informed everybody, and it just seemed to just rock the wrestling world. Fans, like, there are people in the company. Sean Ross Sapp has reported several times that this has this has rocked the roster unlike any release has ever have. A lot of people just really can't believe it, and they can't believe that they haven't like pivoted and brought back R-Truth or anything like that. And I think if they did, you wouldn't hear about it. It wouldn't happen. It would be they would try to make it a surprise if he was going to come back. So and then all that says, like, of the WWE, are they ruining the goodwill they had the past 2 years? With some of the decisions that they have made and things like that. You can kind of say, they had two mass releases, as well, and then all of this other stuff was just going on. Now, wrestling is a business, and just like in any other business, things have to change, and you hate to see anybody lose their job, but that's just the way, especially in this world of wrestling where things have to, you almost have to, do that to keep things fresh, things like that. They brought up new talent from NXT, several new talent, Julia, Roxanne, Stephanie McCurr. They brought in Ray Phoenix and Penta. Mariah May just debuted last night from on NXT. Ricky Starks is gonna be on the main roster as well. So many things. So when you bring in new talent, you gotta unfortunately escort some of the other talent out. But some would say that a person like R-Truth, who's been there 17 years, he should be, as I've called him, a Supreme Court Justice, a WWE Supreme Court Justice. He should be there in WWE either until he unfortunately passes away, or until he decides that it's time for him to hang him up. It's his choice. That's how Supreme Court Justices work. You're Supreme Court, when you are named a Supreme Court Justice, you have that job for life until you decide it's time for you to retire, or until you're unfortunately passing. And I think that's how I feel about R-Truth. I think a lot of people feel like that about R-Truth as well, and that's why this is happening. And now there's even some talk about maybe you're gonna see that with The Miz. And The Miz apparently he did the thing now that's in vogue with a bunch of superstars and other sports, where when you're not happy with your team, and you want to get a new contract or anything like that, you take the team, you take any reference to that team out of your social media. And apparently that's what The Miz did on Twitter. He took any reference to WWE out of his Twitter. And guess Gunther did the same. And there is a report that The Miz's contract is up at some point, this year. Like that. But again, you're talking about The Miz, who has been in the WWE for 21 years. Other than a quick stint in the UPW in Los Angeles. He's a WWE lifer. Again, this is a guy that, and here's the thing I find about difference about R-Truth and about the Miz is that, R-Truth, I think, is there for morale. Everybody loves him. Everybody likes him. Obviously, as we have seen, he makes people feel better and things like that. And he's a funny guy. And he's there, so, and he can just be there just to be there, right? He doesn't even really, he doesn't need to be, he doesn't need to be on television wrestling. He doesn't need to be anything. He's just backstage. He can do backstage stuff, stuff for Twitter and social media and things like that. He can be doing those type of things. But the Miz has, like, what the Miz does, he can do for the next 30 years. The Miz is in his 40s as well, and so it's about time for him to start winding down out of end-to-end ring wrestling. But he can still talk, and he could be a tremendous manager. He would be a tremendous manager if you send him down to NXT and had him be a manager for 4 or 5 stars, and he could help get them over. At some point, he can talk. At some point, he would be a great, commentator. And even though you don't know where it is, because you've got Wade Barrett and Pat McAfee and things like that. And again, I don't know if Pat McAfee. I thought that Pat McAfee would. He was going to be there full time now for the Netflix thing, because college football is Saturday. He doesn't need to, so it's not like he was like on Friday where he needed to be, in the place, thing like that. Although I'm getting on the topic, but yeah, it's not like he was on Friday Night SmackDown and he needed to be in the place that they were doing college game day from on Saturday. He can be there Saturday, do travel either Saturday evening or Sunday morning, whatever, to the WWE place or back home where he lives in Indiana, things like that. So I thought that was what it was, to do his show. But even if I'm wrong and he does have to leave again during football season, it's perfect for like the Miz, right? If you're not having anything doing the ring, Miz can fill in, sit right next to Michael Cole. Even though I'm not a big fan of the whole heel commentator, analyst or commentator anymore, still he still can do that. So like the rumors are like maybe even not renewing the Miz's contract is it's insane to me. And that does take down Goodwill, because there does need to be some. You think there needs to be some loyalty, right? There needs to be some, thing like this. There needs to be something, that you look at, with ticket prices out the thing or anything like that, or it's like good to have a comfort to knowing that you're going to see some of your favorite guys on the show. Truth and Miz and many others who have been there for years. So, yeah, it does feel like the WWE is losing some goodwill with the fans. And I really do think they need to kind of turn it around. They need to turn it around. I do say this. I do think that not renewing contracts is a lot better than just firing people. And I think I think that's something that they should continue to do more of that. However, I think when you're talking about like those guys, like Truth and Miz, those guys should have, should renew their contracts. I don't know about any other guys or any other people about that. So it's that's something that needs to be done. Like the prices, like they need to take down the price. They need to take down the prices of their stuff. Yes, every new pay per view, it's a new record gate. And that's because they are raising prices out of the door of the suit, but you're gonna be pricing out the fans. And some would say, and I understand that some would say that by raising prices you're raising out the hardcore fans. The guy who is going to who is going to root for the bad guy, not root for the good guy, and cheer and boo the bad guy, right? The guy who's going to get on their feet and make the noise, that you want, who's going to chant the chants that you want to, hear toward the wrestlers, and who's going to be clapping and making noise for the guys. You're pricing them out, and that's why when you're watching a match and the crowd is quiet for the most part, and things like that, and they are not making any noise, or they're starting to do the garbage chants of other things. They're doing the white chants or anything like that. Well, that's because it's a certain fan who's there to get themselves over, basically. They're not there to, they're there to watch what they want, to see, but they're not there to, to be along in the fun. They make their own fun. So, yeah, I really do think that WWE really needs to take a look at themselves and just be like, okay, kind of read the room and see what happens. I don't know if they should bring back R-Truth. Because I would say this. Some may look at that as saying, okay, wait, you're bringing back R-Truth, maybe you're doing the thing that people are saying, you're listening to the fans. But then but then what happens next, right? Because I've said this on this channel forever. They're not supposed to be doing what you want. They're not giving you what you want. That's wrestling's never been about giving what the fans want. It's been telling you what you want, so that you think that you want what you want. And at a certain point, the fans thought it's just been about them, and it just didn't involve wrestling. I've also talked about this on this channel. I brought up the whole I want to call it Lord of the Rings, but it's not Lord of the Rings. It's whatever that HBO show was about the dragons and everything like that. The Red Wedding, Game of Thrones. Fans were upset at Game of Thrones because the writer was telling his story the way he was telling it. And the fans didn't think that they should tell the story. They should tell the story that they wanted, or the story that he wanted. But that's not how it goes. It isn't necessarily how you do things. You tell the story that you tell the best story, and you're supposed to do it in a way that, of course, that you enjoy it, but you have to tell the story that you have to tell, and I think that's what the WWE is supposed to do. So, and as it comes for something like this, so if later in the year they do another mass release, and fans don't like it. And they want to bring back one of those wrestlers. Then are you supposed to? Are they gonna like bring him back? I don't know if you can do that. So I don't know if they should bring back R-Truth or not. I don't. I don't know if that would be the right thing. But what I do know, without question, is that they definitely need to start building back Goodwill piece by piece. And I think the price is the first place to do it. The price is the first place to do it. And maybe making minor changes. You know, there was a rumor that this match at Money in the Bank coming up was supposed to be having John Cena with Travis Scott. They didn't. They decided to not do Travis Scott. And fans, I think the fans maybe heard that and they didn't like that. They don't like the Travis Scott part of this, you know, John Cena storyline. So they decided to put Logan Paul in, which again they don't like. They don't like Logan Paul as well. So maybe for like some fans, it's like, you know, they gave me a plate full of shit on one side, give me a plate full of piss on the other one. It said choose which one you want to eat. But you know what I mean. It's you know, but they've kind of maybe changed a little bit, and maybe still do the stories that you do. Just like this, you know, you're not gonna have Jey Uso. You know, if your thing with Jey Uso is to have Jey Uso have a long and productive run. Again, and I think this is a 95% issue. 95%, you know, it's all for the Jey Uso run. 5% isn't. You know, yeah, you don't say, well, okay, well we have to switch because 5% of the public doesn't like it. So no, you don't do that. But maybe what you do is that you do maybe you turn it a little bit so that maybe you do something a little bit different than what you was going to do. And maybe that's the whole thing with Gunther. I think a lot of people are now theorizing that Goldberg, you know, is gonna stop Gunther. Think that there's gonna be a cash in from probably maybe from Seth Rollins, and that's gonna be started by Punk or Roman. So maybe you don't do that. I don't think Seth should get the briefcase anyway. So you know, that's another thing right there. I will be doing a predictions video in a couple of days on Friday, so make sure you are here for that. And a prediction stream from WWE 2K25 will also happen just like it always does on these big shows. I won't be predicting Worlds Collide. I won't predicting anything Worlds Collide because I don't know this because the wrestlers or anything like that or any of the shows, anything like that. I won't be doing that. You know, this time around, I'm just gonna sit back, relax, and watch and see if I enjoy it. I will talk about it on the reaction after Money in the Bank this Saturday evening. So yeah, I think there are just little small little things you can do to try to gain back some goodwill with the fans. But I don't know if bringing back R-Truth is one of them. I don't know. And one last thing, really quick. I also think a big thing could be, you know, they're putting out a lot of content, a lot of pay-per-views, a lot of premium live events in a quick fashion. They've got 3 premium live events in 2 days coming in July. They've got NXT Great American Bash, which again I mentioned this earlier, which they now are putting on the exact same time as AEW is putting in All In, and that's just ridiculous. There's no need to be that ridiculous. And then later that night you got Saturday night's main event, and then the next night you got the Women's Evolution, and then you got SummerSlam, the 2-night SummerSlam in August, and then you got Clash in Paris. So you get so much stuff. That's as well. You're doing all these premium live events, which again costing so much money, and it's so much, you know, and it's so much wrestling to watch that it's, you know, it can just take a toll on me, the wrestling fan, and look at your product, look at your company in a different way. Because again, for 2024, maybe even 30 months, a 30-month span, there was so much goodwill that WWE had gained from the fans, from the fan base, and it kind of seems like that it has just, ever since the beginning of the new year, from the new year, the first thing on Netflix, and it has just kind of decreased. It's slowly declining each and every week and month and things like that. And as one of the biggest WWE fans ever, I don't want to see that. Yeah, I don't want to see that. I don't want to get to a point where, again, we're kind of, we're being stupid and we're just kind of saying, well, AEW is a better show. AEW is a better company than WWE. When that's been never the case. But there was so much fatigue from WWE from the stuff they were doing for years that AEW came along and people were just mind fucked and just saying, even though this shit wasn't true, well, AEW's better, the rest is better, they're doing better things, yada yada yada. No, they're not. They're not better, but that's what people just wanted to say because it was like WWE fatigue, and that's what and there was no goodwill from WWE, and that's what I don't want that to be anymore. No more goodwill. And I talked about this, like the whole thing with TNA. I don't want them. The TNA thing could be great for WWE and for TNA, but I don't want it to be like one-sided. Like WWE just went there and said, "Okay, Joe Hendry, Jordan Grace, come on over to WWE, and we're gonna in TNA. We're gonna leave you with squat." I don't know why AJ Styles is not going back there. I don't know why so many others are not going back. I know this is supposed to be a primarily NXT thing, but once Jordan Grace and what's his face, Joe Hendry was in the Royal Rumble, it's a WWE project, and there should be no reason why those guys on the main roster should not be on TNA. So that's just it. That's my thing. That's how I feel. But how do you feel? Post your comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section about WWE and the goodwill and anything like that. And as Chris Berman from ESPN would say, if you want to be for the last time, if you want to post about your feelings about R-Truth and how R-Truth made you feel, or even Carlito or anything like that, you can do that as well in the comment section. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been your boy, AJTRIP, signing off. As always, be good to each other, y'all. Be careful out there. And I am out.